Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Beitzah Chav Dalet. Perhaps it would be wise to begin again from the beginning of the Perek, starting with the Mishnah, 4 lines from the bottom of Chav Gimel Beis. Ain't sudden dogim mina beberim b'yamtiv. One may not trap fish out of these fish ponds on Yom Tov. Vein noisnin lefnei mezonis, nor can you feed them. Tosfos learns if you feed them, you might capture them. And as Rashi explains, Tzeda is not one of those malachis which are mutar on Yom Tov. Do it before Yom Tov. There's no reason to do it today, and therefore the Mishnah says you can't trap nor feed. Aval sadan chayev oif mina beberim. When it comes to an animal or to fowl, you can trap them, you can capture them, retrieve them out of these beberim, out of these pens, these enclosures. Because when an animal or bird is in this beber, he's already in a state of tzeda. He's already been captured. So simply retrieving it is not considered capturing. So you can capture it out of this beber. And likewise, you can feed them. Not all pens are equal. Depends what size. You can't compare all the pens. Depends how large is it. You have to follow the following rule. If the pen is large enough that the animal contained within it is still lacking tzeda, you still have to go and make that effort to trap it, then you can't do that on Yom Tov. It's asur. But if it's small enough where the animal within it is technically in a state of captured, then retrieving it is not considered tzeda and it's mutar. So in the Mishnah we learn, when it comes to a chayev oif in a beber, it's already been captured, and therefore you're allowed to retrieve it on Yom Tov. V'raminu. Listen to this kasha from a Beitzah which indicates otherwise. Beber and shel chayev shel oifos. You have these enclosures containing chayes, oifos. Ain't sodin mehem b'Yom Tov. You can't retrieve an animal from these pens on Yom Tov. V'ein noisnin lefnei mezonos, nor can you feed them. You're not allowed to do tzeda on Yom Tov. We have a straight contradiction between the Beitzah and the Mishnah. Kasha chaya achaya. We have a kasha from the halacha of chaya. In the Mishnah we say a chaya in a beber is already been captured. Whereas in the Beitzah it seems that it's not considered captured. Therefore you can't capture it on Yom Tov. Kasha oifos ha'oifos. We have another kasha from birds. In the Mishnah we learn oif in a beber has already been captured. Whereas in the Beitzah we say you can't remove the oif from the beber on Yom Tov. Apparently, it's because you're capturing it now. Perhaps we could answer the stira between the halacha of chaya. Well, the Mishnah and the Beitzah reflect different manda amram, different shittas. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanon. The Mishnah, which learns that a chaya inside a pen is considered trapped, is shittas Rabbanon. What does Rabbi Yehuda disagrees? Where do you find this machlokes? By Shabbos. This non Rabbi Yehuda Omer Hatzor de tzipor lemigdal. If one should trap a bird, force it into a migdal, to a closet, a fully enclosed area, small and enclosed, that is considered trapping and is chayiv for the malacha of tzeda on Shabbos. Likewise, utzvi labayis. If he forced a deer into a home, chayiv, he has committed tzeda. What do we see from here? Says the Gemara. Labayis or the machayiv. The deer in the home is considered tzeda. Aval a beber and loy, but simply forcing it into a pen, that's not a defined enough area, and therefore it's not considered tzeda according to Rabbi Yehuda. And indeed, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is reflected in this Beitzah that we just brought. The Beitzah which learns that a chaya found in a beber is not considered in a state of nitzait. It's not considered captured, and therefore you can't remove that chaya on Yom Tov. However, the Chachamim disagree. They hold that a pen, an enclosure, is relatively small enough that an animal found within it is considered captured. Chachamim Aimrim. Tzipor lemigdal. When it comes to a bird, we agree. Unless you forced it into a migdal, to a small closet, it wouldn't be considered captured. Because it's hard to catch a bird. So a bird in a migdal is considered captured. But when it comes to an animal, such as a deer, utzvi, l'agina, l'chatzer, l'bebron, whether into a garden, to a yard, into a pen, it is already considered captured, and he is chayv if he does so on Shabbos. And this shita is reflected in our Mishnah. That on Yom Tov you can retrieve an animal from a beber because an animal inside the beber is considered trapped. So we had a kasha between the chaya and our Mishnah, where it's considered trapped if it's in the beber. Whereas in the Beitzah, we see that a chaya in a beber is not trapped. The Mishnah is Rabbanon, the Beitzah is Rabbi Yehuda. So that's taken care of. Elo ifes ha'ifes kasha. What about the stira between birds? In the Mishnah we learn a bird in a beber is captured. In the Beitzah we learn otherwise. Perhaps we can suggest another teretz here as well. Depends what size beber we're speaking. Or rather, if it's covered, if it's roofed or unroofed. Ha beber mekura. Our Mishnah, which considers a bird to be trapped when it's in the beber, speaking about a beber mekura, has a roof over it. It's fully enclosed. So it's considered trapped. Ha beber she'ena mekura. The Beitzah, which does not consider the bird trapped, is discussing an unroofed beber. Okay, that works. Problem is, we know that all shittas, even the Rabbanon, hold that when it comes to a bird, which is very elusive, you have to trap him into a small contained area, like a migdal. A roofed room wouldn't help you. V'habayis, take a look at the home. The kebiber mekuradami, it certainly compares to a roofed beber. And what do we see? It doesn't work. Ubein the Rabbi Yehuda, ubein the Rabbanon, according to all shittas. Sipar, when is a bird considered captured? Lemigdal, only into a closet, as we just learned in the Mishnah. Lebayis loy, not into a room, not into a home, despite the fact that it's fully enclosed and roofed. So how can you say, on the one hand, a bird in a roofed beber is considered trapped, as per our Mishnah and Beitzah? And we take a look at the Mishnah in Shabbos. We say that according to all shittas, only if the tzibur is in a migdal is he considered trapped. So it doesn't really work. Amar Rabbi Bar Afuna. Says Rabbi Bar Afuna, you know what? It's all following shittas Rabbanon. It just depends what type of bird we're speaking about. There are some birds who are more elusive than others. A wild bird, a free roaming bird. Let's stick with this pshat. We have a Mishnah in Beitzah that a bird in a beber is considered trapped, speaking about a roofed beber. We had the Beitzah, which the Gemara quoted a minute ago, in the beginning of the Gemara. A bird in a beber is not trapped, speaking about an unroofed beber. Now what about the Mishnah in Shabbos, where it seems that according to all, Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanon, unless the tzibur is in a migdal, it's not trapped. It's speaking about, you know what type of bird? A certain type of bird who's a free-flying bird, rebellious bird. She'ena mekabelas maris. Doesn't really accept upon itself mastery. You can't really control it. Some learn that it's a specific species. Some learn it just happens to be his nature. He's a rebellious bird. In which case, unless you force him into a migdal, you haven't trapped him. That's a unique case. But your typical bird is different. As long as he's somewhat enclosed, he submits and is considered trapped. And therefore, if it's a roofed beber, such as in our Mishnah and Beitzah, it's considered trapped. An unroofed beber, such as the Beitzah quoted in the beginning of the Gemara, then it's considered untrapped. But a tzibah dror, he needs to be forced in a migdal to be considered trapped. The Tana Dere B'Shmuel, as we learned in the Beitzah, Lo manikur shma driba dror. Why was it called this type of name, tzipar dror? Meloshan dir, resides comfortably. Shadara b'vayis kebasada. He resides as comfortably in your home as out in the field. He's elusive. He jumps around. You can't grab him. Oh, so that's going to be the teretz to the kasha regarding birds. Again, we had a Mishnah, a Beitzah, and another Mishnah. Mishnah and Beitzah, that a bird in a beber is considered trapped, a roofed beber. The Beitzah, I think more quoted at the onset, that a bird in a beber is not trapped, an unroofed beber. Both are speaking about your conventional bird, submissive bird. The Mishnah and Shabbos, that all agree a bird needs to be forced into a migdal, into a small closet to be trapped, is a tzipar d'royer. Continues the Gemara. Hashta d'asas lachi. Now that you've come to this point, to provide such a good solution to this kasha, that everything is following shittas Rabbanon and simply reflect different circumstances. roofed, unroofed, wild bird, domestic bird. If that's the case, let's go back to the first kasha. Chaya, nami le kasha. Remember we had that kasha regarding a stira, regarding the halacha of chaya. And now Mishnah we learn a chaya and a beber is trapped. And the Beitzah, which the Gemara quoted in the beginning, a chaya and a beber is untrapped. That also could be answered in similar fashion. Perhaps everything is following Shittas Rabbanan. Generally speaking, a chaya forced into a pen is considered under your control enough to be considered trapped. It just depends on the type of pen, the type of enclosure, on the size. Like kasha, the answer is like this: Ha bebeber cotton. In our Mishnah, it's a small size pen. Ha bebeber gadol. In the Beitzah, it's a large size pen. In which case, you still have to invest effort to capture that animal. And therefore, at this point, it's considered uncaptured. How do you quantify this? Hechidami biber cotton, hechidami biber gadol. What do you consider small? What do you consider large? Amar Ravashi, it's like this: Kol hecha deroit abasrei. If the pen is small enough that you give one lurch, you just lunge at the animal, one lunge, umatila b'chat shich, you run after and you catch him in one catch, in one swoop, that's small enough to be considered a biber cotton. But if it's larger than that, it requires more effort than just a simple lunge. Biber gadol is considered a large biber, in which case the animal contained within it is not yet trapped. Inami, another way to describe this, would be as follows: if this pen has all kinds of corners to which the animal can escape and get out of your way, biber gadol, that's considered large enough, in which case the animal within it is not yet considered trapped. But if it doesn't have those corners to run away, biber cotton is considered relatively small, and the animal within it is considered trapped. Inami, a third way to describe this would be kol hecha denafli tula the kasli adadi. If it's small enough that the shadows of the walls on either side reach each other, that indicates a small size biber. That's called a biber cotton, in which case the animal within it is considered nitzoid v'oimid, already captured. V'idach biber gadol, but if it's larger than that, in which case the shadows don't reach each other, that's called a biber gadol, and the animal within it has not yet been captured. Tosfos says apparently they had a certain standard shear as per the height of the walls, and that's what they were measuring with. Okay, so bottom line is like this: when it comes to fish, a fish in a biber is not considered trapped. When it comes to a chaya, well, according to Shitas Rabbanon, even a chaya which is in a pen has already been captured, provided it's a small size pen. Now regarding a bird, so if it's your typical standard conventional bird, then if it's a roofed enclosure, it's considered trapped. If it's an unroofed enclosure, that's not yet trapped. If it's a tiba drur, you need to be in a migdal for it to be considered trapped. Continues the Gemara. Rav Shimon Gamliel loy kol habeber and shavin. Rav Shimon says like this: you can't compare all pens. It depends on the size. So if it's large enough, in which case you still have to trap the animal within it, then it's not yet trapped. Where if it's small enough, where the animal is easily accessible, that's considered a trapped animal. Rashi learns according to one pshat that perhaps Shimon Gamliel is not really disagreeing with Tanakam, he's just coming to explain that biber isn't your standard. It's not a standard description. It all depends on the size and on the circumstance. Omer Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda Mashmol, halach Rav Shimon Gamliel. The halacha follows Rav Shimon Gamliel that unless the animal within the biber is not lacking capture, is not mechusar tzeda, you can't consider that animal to be captured. It has to be small enough so that he's not elusive. You can capture him easily. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye turns to Rav Yehuda Mashmol. Halacha meklal de pligi? When you say the halacha follows Rabban Shimon Gamliel, do you mean to imply that there's machlekes here? Meaning, the fact that you have to paskin sounds like there's a machlekes. But in reality, the Gemara already interpreted even the Tanakama's opinion as per this concept, that only a beaver cotton is considered trapped. So why would you have to say that halacha follows Rabbi Shimon Gamliel as though there's an opposing view? All agree that it has to be a personal-sized pen for the animal within it to be considered captured. Amalei, so Rabbi Yehuda responds to Abaye. Abaye wanted to know, is there a machlekes? So he responds, my nafka mina. What difference does it make to you whether there's a machlekes or not? The bottom line is, the halacha follows this shita, right? Meaning, assuming there is no machlekes, and certainly the halacha follows this opinion. So what's the point of getting to the discussion of whether or not there's a machlekes? You were asking me, is there machlekes? Meaning there is no machlekes. Why do you have to say halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? Well, what difference does it make whether or not there's a machlekes? Bottom line is, that's the truth. It has to be a small sized beaver. Amalei Abai responds, because when you learn Torah, you have to be careful. You have to be accurate in the way you present things. There's a common saying, Gemara, Gemara. Tell a person, learn Zmarta Tehei. Just like a song, just chant along without any meaning, without any depth and accuracy. You say something, you have to know whether it's true or not. Zaklo. So what's the klal set forth by Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? Kolam chusar tzeda. So the animal within the pen is still lacking tzeda, then you can't grab it on Yom Tov. How do you quantify this? What is considered a pen large enough for the animal contained within it to still need capture? If this pen is large enough that a person approaching it would say, let's get a trap, a device, which will enable you to capture the animal within it, then we know the animal within it is mechusat tzeda. You can't do that on Yom Tov. Rashi learns that this is just another way of describing what's considered large and small, so it's added to the previous descriptions. We have a total of 4 descriptions used to tell apart the large and small beaverin. So Abai responds to Rav Yosef, that is the criterion, whether you need some device which will enable to capture it. What about geese? Chickens. People say that. Look, let's get something to trap the goose, trap the chicken. And still, we learn in the Beitzah that trapping these type of things is not considered Seder. It's already considered trapped as is, because it's easily accessible. If one should trap these geese, or chickens, or these domesticated birds, Rashi says they were called hardisois, that's where they came from. In any case, these are domesticated creatures, potter. He traps these things on Shabbos and Yom Tov, he's potter. Apparently, they're already considered trapped as is, because they're easily accessible. So apparently, even in the case where you try to use you need to use a device to capture it, that doesn't mean that it's a ma'aseh tzeda. The animal is more or less accessible. Amar Rabbi bar Rav Huna Amar Shmuel. I'll tell you the teretz. Typically, the fact that you have to use a trap, you have to use a device, indicates that the animal is still roaming freely. When it comes to geese, chickens, etc., these are different. Halolu bo'in lekluvan le'erev. These animals come back to their coop every night. V'halalu, as opposed to other animals, ein bo'in lekluvan le'erev. Don't return to their coops at night. What it means to say is like this: the fact that it returns on a nightly basis indicates that it's somewhat within your control. It's not something which is a free roaming animal, in which case la halacha we treat it as though it's been captured and trapped, as opposed to your typical animal, which just roams around, doesn't come back to any coop, doesn't come back to touch base. So that's considered a free roaming animal, in which case capturing it, in a case where you have to use a device to capture it, you are doing tzed. Says the Gemara, well, is that the condition? Is that the criterion? Whether it returns on a nightly basis? What are pigeons living in the birdhouses? Living up in the attics? The boy and the kluv on the Erev, they also return back to their coops, to their houses on a nightly basis. And still we learn in the Beitzah, if one should trap them, he has done Seder. V'tanya, we learned in the Beitzah, Hatzad Yoni Shevach. If one should trap these birds, V'yoni Aliyah, V'tziparim Shekano B'tvichen, birds which reside B'tvichen, and these containers, B'birois, embedded in the walls of mansions, Chayev, he has done Seder despite the fact that they come back to home base on a nightly basis. So you can't set that as the condition. I'll tell you the reason. I'll tell you why geese, chickens are different. These fellows return on a nightly basis. Not only that, they depend on you for their sustenance. So they're homey with you. And even during daytime, if you just walk over and capture it, you have not committed Seder. As opposed to those birds discussed earlier, sure, they come back every night. But they're not dependent on you for their sustenance, in which case they're not considered mezuman. Rashi says they're not prepared, they're not under your domain, not in under your jurisdiction, and capturing them is considered a masat seder. That's an interesting criteria. If they come back and depend on you for sustenance, they're considered connected to you somewhat, and capturing them is not considered an act of tzeder. Rav Ari Amar, he says, I'll give you another way to determine, another way to explain why geese and chickens are different. Hani avidi l'rubuye. Those birds discussed earlier, Yoni Shevech in Aliyah, are of the type that fly away. They elude capture. V'hani lo yavidi l'rubuye, as opposed to chickens, geese, are different. They're more submissive. They don't run away when you approach them. What do you mean? Kulu nami avidi l'rubuye. All creatures jump away when you approach them, even chickens and geese. L'rubuye l'kluvan kamrinan. Sorry, l'kluvan kamrinan. Davidi l'rubuye. What I meant was, l'kluvan, when they come back to their coop, as we said, they come back, they return every so often. Now is the test. So they're back at home. You approach them. Do they run away? Do they escape? Are they terrified of the owner? So the Yoni Shevech in Eli, yes. As soon as you approach the birdhouse, they run away. David l'rubuye. As opposed to the Avaz and Tarnagolim and Yoni Hadusais, they're different. They're more domesticated. When they come back home, they stay home. And should you approach them at that point, they're submissive. They just stay there. They're passive. In which case, that passivity gives them a din of nitzoid ve'omer. They're considered to have been somewhat trapped even throughout the day, when they're not back home. And approaching them, even with a device which aids you in capturing them, is not considered a masat seder. Okay, so in summary, we have all types of creatures, and when are they considered to have been trapped? And there are two applications. Number one, should a person do this on Shabbos, he has done a malach of tzeder. Number two, regarding Yom Tov, if these conditions, these circumstances, are classified as captured, as nitzoid, then you're allowed to retrieve them from their condition, from their situation, because you're not trapping, they're already trapped. So when it comes to fish in a bibar, that's untrapped. Running around a fish pond is a pretty free roaming situation, and it's not considered to have been trapped. What about a chaya in a pen? Oh, so if it's a small pen, it's considered trapped. A large pen is not. We had four conditions, four criterion set forth in the Gemara on how to determine what's called katan, what's gadol. And the point is, if it can be easily retrieved, that's called katan. Otherwise, you're still have to go and trap it and capture it. That's called bibar gadol. Rabbi Yehuda says, when it comes to an animal, unless it's in a bias, that's not considered trapped. When it comes to birds, typically, if it's a roofed beaver, it's called trapped. Unroofed, that's not trapped. A tziba durayer doesn't allow himself to be trapped too easily. Unless he's in a migdal, he's not trapped. Avaz and Tarnagolim, Yoina Dirsoid, these domesticated animals which come back home, which rely on you for sustenance, they're considered to be in a state of nitzoid, trapped, all throughout the day. Continues the Mishnah. Metzudas chayev oifa dogim. She'asan erev yamtiv. Suppose he laid out a trap to capture his chaya, to capture oif, to capture dogim. Lo yitamem b'yamtiv. He approaches the trap and he finds an animal on yamtiv. When was it trapped? When was it captured? Yesterday. In which case, coming into yamtiv, it was muchan, prepared for yamtiv use. Or perhaps it entered the trap today. In which case, coming into yamtiv, it was as yet untrapped, not prepared for yamtiv use. Moktzah. Lo yitamem b'yamtiv, he can't use it on yamtiv. Elam ken yedei sheni tzaydim erev yamtiv, unless he knows with certainty that it was trapped before yamtiv. Umaasa b'nachur echad. There was an incident involving a non-Jew. Shevi dogim l'Rabban Gamliel. He delivered fish to Rabban Gamliel on yamtiv. V'ama mutarne. And Gamliel says, I can use them. Technically, they're mutar. Ela she'ein returning l'kavel amenu. I'm not interested in receiving from this fellow. He disliked this fellow. He didn't want to interact with him. Masa lister. Does a person generally bring a story to contradict himself? Mishnah begins by saying that unless it's been trapped before Yom Tov, you have a concern with muktzah. Then we have a story, fish delivered on Yom Tov on mutar. Doesn't seem to be consistent. Chesur me'achsra. The Mishnah is meant to be learned as though it's missing some words and learned as follows. The Mishnah begins, unless the item is trapped before Yom Tov, it's considered unprepared and muktzah. What if you're not sure? Safek muchan. That's also asur. If you're not sure when it was trapped, you're not sure if it was ready before Yom Tov, it's also asur. V'Rabban Gamliel matir. Gamliel disagrees. He says Safek muchan. It's only Safek d'Rabban. It's mut. In fact, we have a story to back that up. U'Maaseh Nami. The Mishnah continues. There's a story of Nachri Echad. Shevi dogim l'Rabban Gamliel. He delivered Gamliel some fish. V'Amam return it, and he said technically they're mutter. Ela she'ein return l'kavel amenu. I'm not interested in receiving it from him. I don't want to give him that satisfaction. Rashi says, and he didn't want to give him that hana, so he refused to accept the gift. But in any case, the Mishnah is discussing vadai muktzah, and then moves on to safek muktzah, which according to Tanakama is asur. That's going to be Shittas Rabbi Shua, coming up in a minute. Rabbi Gamliel says safek muchan is mutar. In fact, I have a story where he said it's mutar, but I'm not interested in receiving it from him. Amar Vidam Shmuel. We don't follow Gamliel's shita. Safek muchan is asur. Now, all the Rishonim and Achronim endeavor to explain why muktzah is only the Rabbanon. Why do we say safek muchan, which is technically a safek muktzah, would be asur? This is Shanim back on Gimel Beis says we treat it like a safek d'oraisa. The Mishnah Melech says muktzah is davar sheish l'matir. You may remember back on Daf Gimel, Daf Dal, we discussed this concept that something which has an allowance down the road, such as muktzah, which can be used tomorrow, it's only time related, a limited time isser. Chacham say, you know what? It shouldn't appear like you're taking yisurim lightly. Wait patiently. Don't have it now when it's a safek isser. Wait until you could have it beheta, which is tomorrow. So for whatever reason, we hold safek muchan, which is really safek muktzah, is still us. So Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel says, we don't follow Gamliel because safek muchan is really asur. Ve'ikad demas laha. According to another version, Shmuel, when he issued this halacha, it was in reference to a brais, which actually contained two shittas. The sanya safek muchan. You have an uncertainty regarding whether or not it's muchan. Rabbi Gamliel matir. Rabbi Shua oiser. On this brisa we have the halacha. Amar Vidam Shmuel. On this brisa Shmuel said, halacha Rabbi Shua, that safek muchan is us. We have yet a third version. Some applied Shmuel's psak to the following brisa. The sign. If you find an animal inside this enclosed pen, Rashi says it was called nagorin because they had these water canals, these troughs where the animals would drink. So you can retrieve an animal from there and do shchita on Yom Tov because it's considered muchan, prepared for Yom Tov use. However, you can't retrieve an animal from these types of traps and nets. You're not sure if it was trapped today, in which case it's muktzah, or yesterday, in which case it's not muktzah. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, he says like this: take a close look at the net. Perhaps you can figure out when it was trapped. Rashi says they used to have these long, extra, super long nets, which would stretch a mil or chatzi mil. The opening was on one side, and he's going to approach the net perhaps on the other side, and he's going to see whether it was tampered with. He'll see whether it was disrupted, meaning when the animal enters on the other side, the entire net, the entire trap vibrates and gets disrupted. So, if you approach the net, approach the trap before Yom Tov, and he saw that it was mekulkal, was already disrupted, you can be rest assured that the trap occurred before Yom Tov. Why else would the entire net, entire system be disrupted and shaken up? Umutar, in which case he can partake in this animal on Yom Tov. However, bo matzon mekulkal be Yom Tov. If he arrives on Yom Tov, so he checked it last night, it was intact. He comes the next day Yom Tov, he sees that it's mekulkal, biyodua sheb Yom Tov nitzodu. Now he can know with certainty that it was trapped on Yom Tov. That's when the animal entered Vasurin, and the animal's asur, it's muktzah. So that's the Beitzah. We have a kasha on the Beitzah. Hoguf a kasha. Take a close look at the wording of the Beitzah. We seem to find an inherent kasha. First you say, Amras bo matzon mekulkal me'erev Yom Tov. If he encountered a disrupted net before Yom Tov, biyodua shem erev Yom Tov nitzodu, then you know with certainty it was trapped before Yom Tov and it's mutter. Let's stop. What's the implication? What's the diuk? Tama de bo matzon mekulkal. It's only because he found it to be disrupted before Yom Tov. In which case he knows with certainty the animal was trapped before Yom Tov and is considered prepared. Hasvek asurn. Apparently, if there's a suffix as to when it was trapped, it would be asur. Suffix muchan is asur. Let's move on. Ema seifa. How does the Beitzah continue? Bo umatzon mekulkal be Yom Tov. If he approaches Yom Tov, meaning he checked the night before, the net was not tampered with. He approaches the following day on Yom Tov, and he finds it to be mekulkal. Now he knows with certainty it was trapped on Yom Tov, and it's muktzah. What does this imply? That's only because he found it to be disrupted on Yom Tov, so it was a vade trapped on Yom Tov, and it's muktzah. Hasveika. However, if it's a suffix, he's unsure of when it was trapped. Me'erev Yom Tov nitzodu mutar. You can just assume that it was trapped before Yom Tov, and it's mutar, because the suffix muktzah is mutar. A minute ago you told me suffix muktzah is asur. Right? First you say, unless you know with certainty that it was trapped yesterday, it would be asur, meaning suffix is asur. Then you say, unless you know with certainty that it was trapped today, it's mutar, which means suffix is mutar. The Beitzah meant like this. Really, suffix is asur. The Beitzah began, bo matzon mekulkal me'erev Yom Tov. If he approached the net before Yom Tov and he found it to be disrupted, biyodua shem erev Yom Tov nitzodu, then you know with certainty that it was trapped before Yom Tov, and it's mutar. Hasveika. Oh, the Beitzah meant like this. But if there's any shaila, there's any uncertainty as to when it was trapped, hasveika, nasakami, we treat it as though shenitzodu b'yom Tov asur, as though it was trapped on Yom Tov and it's asur, because suffix muchan, suffix muktzah is really asur. On this, we have the verdict of Shmuel, Amar Bidamar Shmuel, halacha, Rabbi Shimon Elazar, that suffix muktzah is asur. So, bottom line is, we have machlekes regarding suffix muchan. Muktzah, is it asur or mutar? According to Rabbi Gamliel, it is mutar. According to other shittas, it's asur. We have a psak, then we have a Shmuel. Suffix muchan, which is really a suffix muktzah, is asur. But according to Rabbi Gamliel, it's mutar. V'amam mutar. There was a story involving a guy who delivered fish on Yom Tov. They weren't sure when it was trapped, before or during Yom Tov. Rabbi Gamliel responds, it's mutar, because he holds suffix muktzah, suffix muchan is mutar. Now when we say it's mutar lamai, relative to what way is it mutar? We have machlekes. Rabba amar mutar lekabel. You can accept it, you can handle it, but you can't eat it. V'levi amar mutar ma'achila. You can even eat it. Says Rashi right off to the left side here. Lekabel betiltel. You can actually handle it. That's Rav Shita. The kuli hayle achmar b'suffix muchan. We're not going to be machmir to this extent by a suffix muchan. The litzru betiltel, you can't even handle it. Aval ba'achilu l'shirinu Rabbi Gamliel. But certainly when it comes to eating, even Rabbi Gamliel did not allow it to be eaten. V'levi amar mutar ma'achila. Come Rabbi Gamliel. He held you can even eat it. So Rashi adds, "V'lav desvira l'Rav v'Levi kavasei." It's not to say that Rav and Levi hold like Rav Gamliel. Elamil said the Mefarsh is simply trying to explain his opinion. When he said mutter, did he mean to the extent of achila or only tiltal? Now, what will be the difference? So some Achronim explain. Rav held that theoretically, Rav Gamliel agrees that Safek Muktzah, since it's davar sheish l'matir, and you shouldn't eat it today. Wait till tomorrow. That's only when it comes to eating, which is a sort of one-time use. You only eat it once, so may as well eat it tomorrow when you know it's mutter, rather than relying on the suffix today. But when it comes to tiltal usage and moving around, it's not a one-time thing. So in that case, there's no svara to say, well, wait till tomorrow. I'll use it today and tomorrow. So therefore, he was matir tiltal. So again, Rav Gamliel says suffix muktzah is mutter. Rav says regarding handling. Levi says regarding eating as well. Amar Rav la'olam al yimna adam atzmai beis hamedrash. Afilu shah achas. We learn a great lesson from this discussion. A person should be careful, never to be absent, even for a short time, from the beis hamedrash. Look what happened here. Da'anova Levi, myself, this is Rav speaking, and Levi, havinan kamei de Rebbe. We were before, in front of Rebbe, listening to his shir. She amar la shmata, when he taught us this halacha, that according to Rabbi Gamliel, Safek Muchan is mutar. Now, Bu'urta, at the evening, Amar mutar machila. At the shir which took place during the evening, he said, it's mutar even machila. But Safra in the morning, he changed his mind. After a whole night of learning, but Safra Amar mutar lakabel. It's only mutar to be makablet. It's not muktzah as far as tiltal, but achila is still asr. So he backtracked. Now, I, myself, Rav, the avoy b'medrasha, who was present at night and in the morning, Hadribi, I backtracked as well when I heard Rebbe backtracking. Levi d'lihav b'medrasha, as opposed to Levi who wasn't there in the morning, he was absent. Well, he didn't revert, he didn't backtrack. He stuck to the earlier version, and therefore he says it's mutar b'achila. But the truth is, the reality is that Rebbe was chayzer. He no longer held that according to Rabbi Gamliel it's mutar b'achila, only b'tiltal. Continues the Gemara. Listen to the discussion. A guy delivered a gift to a Yisrael on Yom Tov. Even if you see there fresh fish, moist fish, and fresh fruit, pick today. They were trapped today, pick today, mutar, and you can partake in them. Now, let's go back. This works according to the Shita, who says that the muktzah is mutar and lakabel. You can handle it, you can move it. Shopper, so we can understand why the Beitzah allows you to accept these items. But according to Levi, you can even eat them. How can you actually eat fresh fruit picked today? It's muktzah. It says, well, one second. What do you mean to ask? If these are really fresh fruit, picked today, you can't even handle it. We never discussed fresh fruit. We discussed a safek mucha. Okay, over there, perhaps. We have a kula, you can handle them. But the Beitzah is speaking about fresh fruit. Freshly picked fruit, freshly captured fish. Elo, apparently you must be speaking about a case where it's bekavri, fish, da'adim. They're still red. They look a bit fresh, but in reality, they're yesterday's fish, picked before, captured before a Yom Tov. Uperi, when we speak about the fruit, the kvishi biyarka skina. They were covered with greens, with vegetables, to keep them fresh. So in reality, they're yesterday's products, and have no muktzah concern whatsoever. Why does the Beitzah refer to them as fresh, today's products? They appear like today's products, but in reality they're not. So what's the Chiddush? Rashi says, even though they appear like today's, we're not choshish for maris ayin. We allow the Yisrael to accept it without any concerns because it was picked and trapped yesterday. Not muktzah. Amar Papa Hilchasa, halacha l'mai says like this: Nachri shehevi darvin l'Yisrael b'Yom Tov. A nachri delivers a gift to Yisrael on Yom Tov. He delivers them a batch of bananas. Im yesh ma'iseh amin b'mechubar asa. Now, theoretically, we can have two concerns. Perhaps they were picked today, so they're muktzah, because going into Yom Tov, they were not prepared for this purpose. And Rashi says, even according to Rabbi Shimon, this is a severe form of muktzah. It's been negated, pushed away from use, sitting on a tree, nobody's using it. Nobody wants to use it at this point. So even though it's a goy, he says the concept applies even to the product of a goy, and it's muktzah. Number two, perhaps it was brought from outside the tchum. So there are two possible concerns. Says the Gemara, if you know for a fact that there are still some bananas that are mechuber lekarka today, so there's a real concern that it was picked today, and it's asur. You can't use it on Yom Tov. We're concerned that he picked it min mechuber. Erev nami. Listen to this. Even after Yom Tov, asur mechdeshiyasu. The following night, you have to give it some time. Suppose it takes an hour to pick and deliver these bananas. You have to wait an hour. Come Matzah Yom Tov, so that you don't really benefit from the malacha that the guy did on your behalf. Taisa says, otherwise you might be tempted to have the guy do things for you. Chacham applied Gzera. Anytime a malacha was done by a guy for a Yisrael, he has to wait b'chdei shiyasu, to have adequate period of time lapse during Matzah Yom Tov, which will remove any possible hana garnered from the guy's efforts. So this is if there's a concern that he might have picked it. If you know for a fact, season's over, there are no more bananas to be picked, there's no concern that he picked it on Yom Tov, then there's no concern of muktzah. But it depends how far away he got it from. If you deliver it from within the tchum, you can use it on Yom Tov. But if you deliver it from outside the tchum, so although it's not a melacha deraisa, melacha derabanan, you can't partake in those bananas. Listen to this chiddush. But if something was delivered from outside the tchum for Ruvain, although Ruvain can't partake in it, but Shimon can. Rashi on top says, "Leishamati tam b'kuba b'davar." I didn't really hear a good pshat on this halacha. And Tosfos says it's only drabanan. They were not machmer when it comes to Yisur Tchumen. Perhaps the point is that it's not really a true transformation that took place. You haven't really produced anything. You haven't really changed its shape, its consistency. It wasn't like it was baked or picked. It was just transported, delivered from one place to the other. That's not a typical malacha, and therefore you, the recipient, Reuven, who it was delivered to, he can't have enough from this change of location of his delivery. But Shimon, the guy didn't have him in mind, so the malacha wasn't done for him, and therefore he doesn't have to reckon with the fact that it changed locations. He can partake in this delivery. Okay, so what did we learn today? We began with a Mishnah in Sod and Dogim. The point is you can't trap on Yom Tov. Sometimes fish, rather animals, contained in certain enclosures are already considered to have been trapped, in which case you can go and retrieve it on Yom Tov. So we have a list. When it comes to fish in a fish pond is considered not trapped. A chaya and a biber cotton, trapped. Biber gadol, not trapped. According to Rabbi Yehuda, has to be in a bias to be trapped. When it comes to eifais, biber mekura, a roof biber, is considered trapped. Eine mekura, unroofed, is considered to be untrapped. This is a typical bird, a tzipa, a droyer, who eludes capture. Unless you force him into a migdal, he's not considered to be trapped. Those domesticated creatures, avazim, tarnagoyim, fish, geese, and chickens, yoina jesois, these domesticated pigeons, since they're submissive, they're considered to be trapped all along. We learned about setting up traps before Yom Tov and using the content on Yom Tov itself. So if it was trapped before Yom Tov, you know that it was prepared for Yom Tov use, it's not muktzah. If it was trapped on Yom Tov itself, then it's considered to be muktzah. What if it's a suffix muktzah? According to Rabbi Gamliel, it's mutter. Some say mutter betiltel, some say even ba'achila. According to Rabbi Yeshua, it is considered to be asur. And the halacha follows Rabbi Yeshua. Suffix muktzah is asur. If a akum did a malacha for Yisrael, he picked something, delivered something, trapped something, so you're asur in that item, b'chdei sheyas, you have to leave enough time on Matzah Yom Tov, enough time which would allow, theoretically, for this malacha to be done, so that you don't have enough from the guy's malacha. Concluded with a guy which brought something mechutz latchum. Although it's aser liyisrael zeh, but it's mutar liyisrael acher. All the best to you and much hatzlacha.